Just thought I'd do a video as I've almost completed Battlefield 1, I say from the release date and all through the 5 different DLC add-on packs. I've gone through the game and I've played the content, I've unlocked the guns, I've nearly unlocked all the guns now, so I guess this is partly a bit of a review. I'd like to just go through and run down all my favourite maps and why some are higher up than others, which of them I find fun and why, because the maps in Battlefield are really spectacular work and they are really incredible. It's been amazing to see how level design has evolved over the years to get to this point where you can have weather and really realistic environments. I'm sure there's more improving to be done, and in the future we'll see even more impressive ones, but some of these maps are the most impressive feats of level designing I've seen from games in many years. The most amazing thing about them is the weather, I think. Each map has three or more kind of weather environments that just kick in from time to time. And there's always one that's like a bad visibility weather type, which is really dramatic, like fog or sandstorm or heavy rain or blizzard. I always like those ones, even though they kind of impair visibility for a bit. They always make the map look even more kind of beautiful and stunning. It's what kind of distance fog seems to do in maps quite a lot. So I've organised these slips that show each of the maps, and I'm going to put them in order and then talk briefly about each one. Currently in no particular order, here are the maps of Battlefield 1, and I'm going to try and put these in order of how much I like them so far. So here we are, this is my final lineup from best down to worst. Actually, this is the final lineup because I forgot Empire's Edge existed. Oops. So this is Argonne Forest. It's a forested area and a European kind of woods sort of map. It's got a railway running through it that the Behemoth comes down in Conquest. Lots of areas that funnel troops into these kind of narrow gullies. So lots of choke points, lots of area for grenade spam. It's got underground passes and things, multiple routes around the map. Benzene! So a lot of times when I actually see this map on the server browser and see we're going to this map, I'm just like, oh, not Argonne again. It should say something really, that my worst map, my least favourite lowest map on the list is this one, and it's still really good. Even the worst map is really good, and that's the standard of Battlefield maps, is you can have a lot of fun on the worst map you can think of, I think. Although I haven't included the plane maps, and I just think that does try my patience, being on the plane maps, because I'm not getting a normal Battlefield experience, to be honest. This one is Galicia. It is a wide open map, 28th place I've put it, so quite low down, and obviously people see me playing this map before. The reason I mainly don't like it is it's such a Sniperfest. Even in deathmatch mode, I think it is definitely the map where snipers reign supreme if they're not being sniped by other snipers. But it has its own unique art style, like most of the maps. You're just astounded sometimes at the level of attention to detail in some of these maps. You can find things in maps that you've never found before. You'll just find areas that you didn't expect to find. Even if you think you know the map well, there's still more to see. It might be worth playing as a spectator, actually. This is Capo Reto, which is my 27th place. It's sorry, I'm just watching this dunce fly around the map. It's a map that's built onto a mountainside entirely, and that makes it difficult sometimes for one team. It's a bit of a Sniperfest. It does look a bit like Galicia built onto a hill. The ruin area, this is a good area for fighting. Yeah, okay, I don't need hints, thank you. I think planes get a bad deal on this map. They probably get sniped quite a lot since Apocalypse with the new AA gun. X to lower camera, that's useful. X in space, huh? So around the ruins here, it's quite fun gameplay. But around the other bits of the map up here on the hillside, you just find yourself dealing with tons of snipers, even if you are one. And they have a lot of horses on this map, but it's not a very easy map to use horses on, I find. What's the one they included in the name of the Tsar, Lupkow, where they first showed off the Lancer cavalry? That is a map that's designed for horses. In 26th place we have Nivel Knights. It can be good on deathmatch. I think I recently found out that it's really good on domination. The good thing about this map when it came out was the trench work. The being in the trenches is the first map with the extremely extensive trench network, and so the gameplay is often really good in the trenches. Obviously it's not really like actual World War I fighting. Someone could produce a better game that would more accurately represent what trench warfare was. But for this game, you know, for a fast, action-packed, first-person, class-based shooter, it works. Jump and dive through the trenches, up and down, and use them as great cover. But then you've got this wasteland here, which in Conquest is particularly hard to cross. So snipers can use it too. You've got an area for snipers. Trench is a good area for assault. It's not bad for vehicles. The vehicles probably get a lot of cover with the trees and things and the hills, but it is liable. You can get really spammed. There are certain flags, I think, in either Frontlines or Conquest where you just get stuck right at the end here, and there are just hordes pouring onto you from these high hills up here. And it's very hard to keep them from winning, basically. They just swarm in. Everyone's dying way too much. Yeah, this area is not as fun to play as the centre of the map, I think. And likewise for the other side of the map, they also have these areas where... which one's the mode with... Is it Frontlines the mode with the bombs? Like the little telegraph machines you've got to guard? Those trenches can get ridiculously spammy. I've given 25th place to Passchendaele. Can I please get a good camera that suits me? I think there's this sparky area on Passchendaele where on Ultra, on a certain setting, the sparks from the trees are just everywhere, and it's meant to look cool, but it just looks really annoying. Most of Passchendaele I don't really like the art style of, because it's basically grey, and I think the mud is meant to be black, but if you just look at it from any direction it just looks kind of grey, like they have decontrasted everything. And yeah, if I took a screenshot of this and put it into PaintShop Pro and added darkness and contrast, I could make this look a lot better than it is, in my opinion. And I think they missed an opportunity with the green smoke that is on the backdrop to one side of the map, because each map has a weather condition. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a twist to the weather condition where the green smoke enveloped the map as like sandstorm weather, or, you know, fog weather? It's like that, and it would be easy to pull off having that in green and just have the green cover the map, and then make the server force everyone in the map for that time period to wear gas masks. So you've actually got a weather condition that, as a twist for one map in the whole game, is functional and does something to the gameplay. They totally missed the trick with that. So on one side of the map you've got this green smoke. And I think Battlefield maps really go overboard with the fire. It worked pretty well for Verdun Heights, because when you first saw that you're like, wow, okay, that's the fire map. The map where there's fire and smoke in the air. But then after that, for Apocalypse, they just like put tons of fire on every map. And in London Calling, they've got like really unrealistic fire coming from the ground below that glows in these big balls. I just got to the point where they were just putting like fire on everything. I think it's gimmicky. Well, that's a good shot. Passchendaele can be annoying, but it can be fun. As with all the worst maps on my list down here in the 20s, there's still a lot of fun that could be had. But It's got a lot of open areas, a lot of areas where you can be sniped. It does have trench networks, maybe not as good as Nivel Knights does. And you're always having a bit more fun with the more covered areas in the ruins. I'm not sure this is such a good vehicle map. It feels like you can get killed a lot more easily as a vehicle. Horses have a hard time on this map because there's a lot of trenches you can just get stuck in and your horse will stop moving basically. So this is Tsaritsyn, basically the World War I version of Stalingrad, and they've used kind of questionable references for this map because apparently this cathedral doesn't exist, and the one they've used. What's going on now? Okay, apparently we're loading again. So the centre of the map is this giant cathedral, and apparently in Russia this doesn't actually exist anymore, but they're planning on rebuilding it. So this particular one in this map is based on a different cathedral that's just in the area. So this isn't really an authentic place. It has this gigantic park on one side of it that looks like a part of Battlefield 2142. And I really like the look of it and I want to play on it. But this is actually beyond the game's border, what do they call them? Combat area. The extreme edge of the map where you can't actually go into the park as a player. But it's a lovely little park. I wish you could actually enter it. When they go to the deathmatch version of these maps, they take the Conquest version and they take a small chunk out of it for players to play in. And there's a really nice area of the Conquest version of this map, which is all the way over here, where there's like a ship waiting, presumably on the Volga River, which is a different map. And you've got this lovely little train yard, which you can only access in Conquest. It's got loads of little details in it. And I really think this should be the deathmatch area of this map, but apparently it's not. It gets very spammy in this map. The church is a little gimmicky. There's only one map like this where there's just like this huge central feature that everyone plays around, and everyone wants to fight in the church for some reason. They won't fight in the edges of the map, which I think are more fun to fight around the A flag and such, which is over here. There's like a ruined town of the A flag, and there's loads of buildings around the edges. I like fighting around there, and you can get in some of the buildings, which I appreciate. My friend really likes this map. There's a brilliant weather mode for this map. I say mode, I don't know what you'd call it, phase or something, where there's a blizzard and the sky is super glowy through the blizzard and it looks pretty cool. Not as good as Volga River's weather phase. Again, too much fire going on there, but you don't really notice that because you're normally down at ground level here. It's very open around the middle of the map, so you're likely to get sniped when crossing between the buildings and the palace. This is Lupkow Pass, which I've put at 23rd place. This was released as a starter map just before In the Name of the Tsar, the second add-on pack, and it's a pretty good map. Hardly anyone plays it, but it's I say it's a pretty good map. It's down 23rd place, but the problem with a lot of these maps have is the dominance of snipers in so many of them. You just kind of get shot from nowhere in lots of different places on these maps, and I prefer the maps where it's not like that, and I think more of them are at the top. I think Amiens is near the top of my selection, but there's no map that's completely free of it. Snipers reign supreme in this game, basically. On the Conquest version of this map, you can have the giant bomber. I think that's the kind of debut of the giant Ilya Muromets bomber that now basically is capable of a nuclear strike because they've added one called the tactical loadout, which just bombs the heck out of the ground troops. But yeah, this is a snowy forest, and I like the bombed out church up here. I like the look of this map. On Conquest, it is worth noting, as I said before, that this is a map that is very good for horses. They've planned lots of little routes that the horses can go and they won't get stuck. These routes are places where troops are likely to go, but if they go into the little dips, then a horse can just pick out one with the spear. That's really cool. There are certain maps where one kind of gameplay type reigns supreme. On Achibaba it's bayonet charging. On Fort de Veau it's probably shotguns. On this it's horses. And it's a beautiful map. You can see all the cold snowy mountains when you look up. Like the whole map is like a giant crater pit. Like it's walled off on the outside by high mountains, and then it comes back up in the center with a big hill, not as tall as the mountains. But this is actually Barbar. Came with the first half of Turning Tides because for some reason they broke it into two halves. And we've actually got troops in this map, and it's the Domination variant of the map. I don't really like playing Conquest as much as I like playing all the smaller modes, except Frontlines, which I suppose is a big mode, but I've grown to liking Domination and War Pigeons recently, although my two favourite modes are Frontlines and Team DM. You get to see some of the gameplay going on. Yeah, it's a nice sunny map. I like sunny maps in the desert. I like desert maps. They look beautiful to me. This overlooks a kind of coast that you don't notice when it's in different weather modes. There's only like one or two weather modes where you actually notice the sea down there. Kind of amazing actually when you get up high here. This map has lots of these pillars. It's like a ruin of an old a temple from antiquity or something, like a Greek temple. You've got this kind of weird, slightly raised slab, like a floor where the walls have been knocked down. This is a really odd area where you can poke your head up, but you can't. You can only see people who come up to the edge of the wall there. You can't see any of this hill down here. It's a weird standout feature of the map is this, because I'm always kind of perplexed when I see this bit, like how to strategize about using it, because you can't just jump over the top and you can't really see what's going on beyond it. You can crouch at this side of the wall and no one looking out over where I was just now would even know you were there until you poke your head up. There's lots of lovely little kind of gullies, mainly on the larger versions of this map. There's this lovely kind of area where there's a mounted machine gun here and a crashed plane, and this part of the map is like off the beaten track, so troops can occasionally run down from these windy... Look at the art style of this map. It's like an Australian kind of... It reminds me of Australia. I can't say why. I guess it's actually Turkish. I like that they've really done their research for different areas of the world and what sort of look they can get out of the game engine, and what sort of textures to use and things to make every map, or most maps, fairly unique. Which reminds me slightly of Cyprus, I guess. I guess that would be in the same area. At 21st place I've put Prix de Tahur, which is kind of like a nighttime Amiens. It's not Amiens, it's got a different layout, but it's the only other kind of you're in the middle of a city kind of map, which is really cool. I love the city maps. Obviously you've got all these different streets to choose from, and they've put like plenty of streets so that players get separated, and there's lots of different choices for where they could go to. And you can go indoors, a lot of buildings, although I wish you could go in every building. This is what I want from a Battlefield game. And I wanted it from 2142 as well. There were so many locked doors in those games. Whereas I played the add-on pack for Battlefield 1942 called Desert Combat, and you could go in an awful lot of buildings in that game, and it just made the gameplay so much better, because you didn't know what building an enemy could pop out of, and I really wish they went back to that. I'm not into all the different design choices they make for balancing. I'm into a few of them. Look at this beautiful kind of autumn tree area at dusk. Yeah, this map is very beautiful. It's like not fully nighttime. I'll give it less of a harder time than Nivel Knights for trying to pull off nighttime, because this is like a map that is like made to look like it's happening at dusk, not like at nighttime, just like after sunset. And so I can give it a break. I did notice this deer is just a prefab that's been dropped into other maps, I think. But you don't always notice when things have been reused in other maps. Lots of hidey holes, lots of places to go. I forgot to go on spectator mode, so I'm running around with this random guy. One of the cool things to do in Battlefield maps is you can just vault over things. And you can I was surprised at the amount of places, at the amount of freedom you get for vaulting. Like, that's slightly too high for me, but this isn't. And if you line up just right, you can actually stand on things, and you can even get higher up than that. And I'm someone who doesn't like invisible collision hulls and being blocked off from stuff. So I like the freedom of being able to just kind of vault and get over things that maybe the developers didn't even intend for you to go up there, but if you have the freedom to go up there, then you should be able to go up there. Anywhere you can see that seems physically possible for you to reach, you should be able to reach. And I like that Battlefield opened up the freedom for doing that sort of thing, when previous games in this series, like Battlefield 3 and 4, were very closed off to that and would control the player a lot more. At number 20, we've got Brusilov Key. And the only server open with this so I could have a look around was Supply Drop, which is a mode I don't really play at all. I think I would play it if a team had a bomber that dropped the supply drop, which is basically a flag, right? This little crate thing is a flag. If that was dropped by the team, so you could choose the location you wanted to guard on the map, that would be so much better. But as it stands, I don't really like supply drop. It's just like, I guess it's like domination. You know, the flags are set for you, you can't really choose. Brusilov Key though, the map. This is when you play it on Conquest, there's a lot of sniper spam, particularly around this area. Because you start off out your flag and just so many sniper bullets fly at you from the town. But this is a really good map. I think a lot of people don't like it, but on deathmatch modes especially, it's really fun. Really fun to snipe on. You're not always getting sniped on the deathmatch mode. On the Conquest you are, if you're over there. I wouldn't say it's a very good vehicle map, although it includes vehicles. They can get stuck quite a lot. The houses are particularly nice. There are lots of different houses to hide in, and you can surprise people, and you can go around the house and you can go up and down the floors and things. The houses on this map are really accessible. I think you can go in every house, which is exactly what I want. I want to be able to go in every house on the map, and I think every single one is accessible, even though the floor plans are like prefab, so they're very similar to each other. Some rooms are just completely on fire, I think, so you can't hang around in them. Like, I think this one, you go into that room, you just catch on fire, which is a pain. And the houses are obviously really destructible. That's something I haven't really talked about, is every building is destroyable. It's not completely destroyable. There are still things you can't destroy, which I don't like. A lot of people say, oh, for balancing, you shouldn't be able to destroy some things in the map. They should remain permanent. I say everything should be destroyable. Why not? Why not destroy everything? Then you can do what you want in the game. You can create your own scenarios by leaving things up or taking them down. And then there's, I think this tower, you can actually knock down this entire sniper tower, which is good for sniping in until someone decides to use high explosives on it. Yeah, it's quite a fun little map, to be honest. Oh, it's annoying that you still have to watch cutscenes as a spectator if you go into operations. This is Empire's Edge, which I forgot to put on the original lineup because I'm an idiot. We're in the Domination version of the map now, so I don't think I can travel to the Conquest versions of the map. Oh, I can I? Oh, maybe I can. Okay, maybe I can. This is quite a vehicle map, to be honest. This is very much a vehicle map. Vehicles reign supreme here. There were boats in this map. This was one of the early boat maps before we knew that boats were going to become a huge thing. I don't like the forts area, like the castles area. These, even though they're central to the map, they get spammed the heck out of. You can get tanks up here quite often between the G point and I think this is a C point. You can get vehicle kills here and you can get kills as a vehicle. There are little portions of the map, very kind of spread out, little houses here and there. The deathmatch focuses on one kind of star fort right at the end here. So deathmatch changes the entire feeling of the map. This is quite fun. place to have deathmatch, although snipers will always lurk on this hill and this hill and this central fort here. If you're an assault, you can breach the fort. If you go in as any other class, you're probably kind of screwed. Very difficult to stay alive in the fort when there's tons of assault guys roaming around, but I quite like the outer areas, kind of running between them, and no one seems to go in the underground bunker, to be honest. But this area is quite fun to defend. As for the rest of the map, it's a good map for snipers, and you don't always feel like you're being killed by snipers, so that's kind of fun. You can snipe on it but not feel like, as other players, that you're always being sniped. Maybe it's because there's lots of planes and vehicles and things as well. And of course boats draw attention out to the sea as well. There's an island which is kind of off to the side, but he who controls this island probably controls the larger conquest games. Probably a very good map for planes, actually. This is Veau Fortress. This is the first map I played on MBF1, and it's a very nice desert map, kind of muted. Actually reminds me a little bit of Empire Total War, the kind of colour scheme they've chosen. Kind of a tropical desert coastline, maybe African. I'm not quite sure where Veau Fortress is, to be honest, so I'm not quite sure where this battle takes place. Maybe Turkey, because these are Turkish flags, right? So, but I mean, just because the Ottoman Empire were fighting the British in World War I doesn't mean they were always hanging around Turkey. So this could be Middle East somewhere. I'm not quite sure. The map itself is really nice. Horses have a bit of a hard time, but they can do things. Horses begin up here, basically along the kind of high mountain route, and they can run along to conquer the center high mountain route D, or they can run along from the other flag to conquer the center flag at D. There's a kind of fort here that you don't get to look around that much because it's just home base, so it doesn't get seen that much other than when you're leaving it. Tanks are pretty good on this map. Horses can get kills in, but I don't know how long they stay alive for. People normally shoot the horses the most. But around the D point, I've found it's quite fun. You can get kills with the field guns. Planes can have fun. Here's a guy having some aerial combat. So yeah, you can have fun as a plane on this map. Whoa. The deathmatch and smaller versions of the map mainly centre around the Star Fort here out on the island, which is pretty fun in deathmatch, to be honest. Yeah, it's pretty fun to defend. I've had lots of fun deathmatch games on this fort bit. I think I prefer the larger version of the map though, because you've got all these other bits to defend. You get boats, and you get a dreadnought as well, so you can take out the boats. This is actually turning into a packed server. Yeah, it's always pretty fun playing on this map, to be honest. You can get into situations where you're pinned down, but it's still pretty fun. This one is Giant's Shadow. I think we're looking at the Domination or Deathmatch version of it, which is centred around this train station sort of area. Don't know, is it a train station? It's got some houses and a railway. I call it the train station. It's a train depot, actually, more like. Look at it. They all pull up and they're kept here. So yeah, train depot, I guess. The large version of the map is not that fun because it's split up by this giant crashed Zeppelin, which is kind of gimmicky because on the other map, Zeppelins crash and they don't end up like this. I think it's more dynamic when it can just happen by random and it isn't just a feature of the level. I don't mind the burning tanks here and there sometimes, but I'm not into this kind of gimmicky crash Zeppelin. The thing about it is, this is one boundary of the map, right at the tip of the front of the crash Zeppelin, and this is the other boundary of the map, just off the end of the crash Zeppelin, which means the crash Zeppelin is basically right in the middle of the map, dividing it in half, and you have to go into it where it's just a spam fest in here. This is where all the assault guys hang out, and they just swarm in from the little gaps and blast away at you. And it's no fun going in there if you're other classes, I think. I'm normally a medic player. It's not so fun. Over here is a really nice village, which I think they're sectioning off for incursions. I don't really understand if that's meant to be a game mode or an entire other game. It would have been nice if this was a different part of the map in one of the other small modes, War Pigeons or Domination, but I don't think it is. The larger map, it's just hindered by this crashed Zeppelin, but you can take tanks and stuff and hang around on one side of the river or on the other. Here, I think you can get horses, you might be able to get motorcycles. Yeah, you definitely can. This area is actually my favourite bit because it's the deathmatch area, and it's a lot more fun to play than the Conquest version of the map over there. So it's kind of high up on my list, but only because of the deathmatch version. This is Albion. I believe it came within the Name of the Tsar add-on pack, and it's a really nice map. Yeah, I quite like it. In Deathmatch Zone, Deathmatch Zone, what the fuck? In Deathmatch mode, you only have the central island here, but it's still a pretty expansive island, pretty huge island, and very fun to kind of play and ambush players on. You can't always see where people are coming from because it's got a natural kind of mild curve to the top of the island here. So even if snipers and things are basically right in front of you, not very far away, you can't see them coming. And then on the large version of the map, it's probably even more fun. Yeah, I think it's more fun than Deathmatch because you get to use the boats a lot more. They're actually the debut of the landing ships, which is going to take me ages to fly over there, but instead of just the gunboats, you get these little kind of landing ships. There's like 3 or 4 main islands. There's a really nice lighthouse area to guard here with little houses you can go in as you travel up to the B flag, which is normally buried down here. And you get kind of spammed crossing the rivers, crossing the water, sorry. And over on the point you get these giant coastal guns that spawn here, and I think they spawn broken to begin with, so you actually have to repair them to use them. I believe that's how it works. More little islands down here. It's actually quite fun to defend this area, which is one team's starting area on the map. That's a coastal gun that you can't use, I think. I haven't noticed the purple on there before. But yeah, this mainland area, I guess, is what it is. That flag's really nice to defend. You got these kind of trenches that run in like 2 squares in like a figure of 8 around them. And there are a lot of planes, but this is the map where machine guns for the support guys started becoming actually usable on planes. Okay. At 15th place on my list, this is Cape Helles. It's a pretty fun map. It's a kind of Gallipoli map, so it's the stereotypical Gallipoli map you'd expect, where the British start off the coast in their boats, and it's basically a D-Day landing, but in World War I. So you go up the coast as the attackers. It's Conquest Assault, which is like a variation on Conquest, just where the mainland people hold all the flags, and you as the attackers don't have any, and you have to work your way up the map, basically. And it's got nice kind of sunset lighting, and you get to use a lot of planes and boats on this map. This is the L class, which came with Turning Tides. L class, is it Destroyer? Yes, Destroyer, because the other one's a Dreadnought. The actual Behemoth is a Dreadnought, so... Whoops, okay. And so you can fight your way up the coast here. There's lots of cover. It's kind of fun. The most fun I have is actually up on the hills here, because this hill is like gently sloping, and it's dotted with trenches, so you get tons of cover, and there's rocks and things. It's gently sloping all the way up, and then there's a flag, and then it dips down and there's field guns to guard the coast from ships here, and then it's gently sloping up to another flag with trenches all the way up, so plenty of cover. And then over here is a spawn for boats, and the enemy starting flag is actually inland here somewhere, where a coastal gun will spawn, I think. Where's the coastal gun? There's one coastal gun, and I think there is another coastal gun. So I'm not very good at using these things, but they're good against ships if you know how to use them, which I don't. I love field guns, and I can't see them at the moment, but I think they normally spawn around here. There's normally 2 that spawn around here. Yes. And then the deathmatch and smaller versions of the map focus around these forts here, which are all kind of segmented by walls, so it's quite nice. A little bit spammy, but kind of fun to guard. Not as fun as climbing up the hills and fighting through these kind of enclosed forts and things, or defending yourself from boats and planes. You feel like you're getting sniped, but not all the time. Sometimes you'll have a good game where you don't feel it's a complete Sniperfest. The annoying thing on this map is the L-class destroyer and the boats mainly. That L-class just spams the shore. You might be able to get a dreadnought, I can't remember. Maybe not actually. But the ship just kind of bombards the shore with its cannons, and it's hard to take out. If you take a little torpedo boat from the far coast, it's really still difficult to take these things out. This is Fort Veau. It might be hard getting a spectator cam through here, so maybe I can jump to troops. Yeah. Wonder if I can go external. Like, here we go. I can behind view some troops. Yeah, Fort Veau is mostly concrete. It's an underground fortress, mostly underground. There is a kind of area up top here that is trenches and stuff. Not really trenches, just kind of blasted mud and stuff. And then you can't actually get on the roof of the fort, which is annoying for me because I want to be able to go where I can see. But you generally go inside the fort and guard kind of the blasted mud outside it. Let's have a little bit of a zoom around. Oh, okay, the spectator cam can see the bit that you can't go on. That's interesting. And a shame. Where there are broken textures. Okay. This is an open air bit where it's actually in the centre of the fort. It opens into this kind of imperial open air bit. I say imperial, I think it's a French fort, so it just looks imperial with the German flag there. So there's a gigantic high-walled kind of moat-like trench that goes around the entire outside of the fort. The stonework is kind of amazing. I don't know how they mapped so much random stonework like this. Must have taken them ages to do that. So this is the wall that goes around the full exterior, and there are some bits on the larger modes where you can go out here. I think front lines is quite fun on these modes because they put the bombs in one of these trenches over here, so you actually get to go a lot further out away from the fort. It looks a bit like Passchendaele, doesn't it? But it's a lot brighter and a lot less grey to me. I guess it's a light brown. It's basically people are spending all their time indoors. Pretty much all their time indoors in this fort. It's a little bit like Amiens, I guess. It has a different feeling to me than Amiens. But, it's got kind of street networks, but indoors. Here's some players. Do you know what they're doing? It's very much a shotgun. Shotguns rule the map, pretty much. And there are swarms of players, and you can set up a lot of traps and there's a lot of choke points. It's very fun for assault players and people with machine guns. Not very good for snipers, except in the outdoor areas. This one is St. Quentin Scar. This is one of the original maps that shipped with BF1 right at the beginning, and it's still a very good map. It's currently in a weather condition which is heavy rain, which I don't always get to see. So I think it's a French town. It's like based on kind of a French style town. Yeah, I think San Quentin is an actual place. I don't know what the scar is. I guess the scar refers to this bit here, which is, to me, reminds me of actual kind of World War I stuff. And you don't always get to play on this bit of the map, because it's just the base of one team. But this is kind of trench networks and things early on, before they started adding them to all the newer maps where they're a lot better done. This is quite cool, don't normally get to see that shattered bit. This is very much a vehicle map. You get lots of planes and you get lots of tanks. Horses have an okay time at things. This is obviously an actual Zeppelin that crashed, not like the one in Giant Shadow. And there's lots of places for infantry to go to. There's the deathmatch version of the map is very fun because there's a village in the centre here which has lots of avenues and lots of little streets, and you can go in all the houses, practically all the houses I think. And that's very fun to play in the deathmatch mode. I think this is actually operations or frontlines mode, something like. So the tanks can come in and trash that, which they can't do in deathmatch. The fog weather condition for this map is really nice. Snipers are often seen in the windmills. This bit is kind of spammy, this hill that you have to climb up to F flag, which is this windmill here. Sometimes you can have a hard time of it because there are just so many things happening, so many vehicles, but it can be fun. They added the Frontlines version, which I prefer way better to Conquest, and that's really fun to play. Another ruined church here where there's a flag. I like this. This is C flag over here. Oh, it's different. It's a different mode. Yeah, this is operations mode, so it's different, but this is where C flag would be. They'd normally put it in there. And my battery's actually gone on my cameras, my dudes, so I guess we'll have to continue without it. This is Suez, and this is at my number 12 slot. It's another desert map, a nice sandy desert, an African map, and it's got a lovely kind of big town in the middle, which is the focus for the deathmatch maps. All these house roofs are pretty much demolishable by mortars and things, but snipers love to navigate all the houses and jump on top of the roofs, which is excellent. Recently a Frontlines version of this map got released, which is awesome. You can also play it in operations, which will change what you're doing. Rush, Domination, I think all the modes are open to this map, basically. Over here you've got a little bit of trenches in the sand. The village is the main area, and then you've got a smaller semi-village here. And up here you've got a high hill, like an artillery hill, which is normally where a flag sits, just outside the one of the team's bases, which they spawn kind of over here out in the desert. And there's a railway that spans the whole side of the map, so a behemoth train comes through quite a lot, spams the map with artillery, which is not so fun when it happens. The kind of gimmicky focus of the map is this kind of sunken ship within the Suez Canal. It's a good map for horses, a lot of snipers can hang around on the outside of the map. If you're out here on the sand, you're very, very likely to get sniped or hit by a tank shot, whereas if you're in a village, you're kind of safe from that, but you have to deal with the assault and support players who are running rampant around here. But it's quite a fun map to play, especially within the town. At my 11th place I've selected Ballroom Blitz. This shipped with the original Battlefield 1. It centres around this kind of French fort. Oh, this isn't normally here. This is a crashed Zeppelin. See, it's actually dynamic, unlike Giant Shadow. I don't know if it despawns. I can't actually remember if it despawns or if it just stays there for the rest of the map. It's a physical object where you can climb it. Oh, it's despawned. It's gone from here. Maybe it does vanish. Anyway, so you got this nice little fort to hide in. Most people like climbing on this upper wall of the fort via these ladders, and you always get snipers up here. It's quite fun being up here, to be honest, so I don't blame them. This is an open area where you get spam. Anyone who runs out into this open area is likely to die, to be honest. It's a packed server. Then you've got another section to the fort here, and this is the ballroom mentioned in the title. And these forts actually have kind of corridors going between them all with this kind of checkerboard floor motif going on. Another open courtyard here. This is a lot easier to cross. You've obviously got the cover of these artillery guns. A lot of people here. I think I'm watching this in operation. Outside the fort you've got a nice hilly area. One team has a train station over here. Their base is actually beyond the hill. This is where they start. And we come over here and there's a train station. The map limits for deathmatch. Once we get up here, this is also another flag beyond the walls of the fort. There's another flag that sits here. It's kind of cool watching this on spectator cam, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, over here, the map limits for the deathmatch map are this inner wall here, and it goes around, so you can use all these inner courtyards here, where it's all kind of meant to be gravelly. Not showing up very well, but it's meant to be gravelly. There we go. That's all part of the deathmatch area, and then the outside of the deathmatch area kind of ends around this pond here, so you get a bit of this area to play in with the smaller version of the map. And then over here, back to the large area of the map, you've got the B flag, which is these beyond these reflecting pools. That's where B flag would be. There's another perimeter wall here where people rarely go here actually, but you'll find snipers here occasionally. And then the reflecting pool, and then there's a house here which is normally another flag, and that's a very fun area to play at. Good layouts here. You can't see over this hill from the house, so you kind of cross over the hill to see another area above the B flag. And then before you reach the other base, you've got this kind of screwed up World War I trench area. Completely destroyed. Muddy. All the good stuff. And then this is where their base would be. It's a shame none of this is actually part of the map. Oh, look how far the spectator cam can go. Look how far the spectator cam can go. Oh, of course, I know this is a low detail part of the map where the spectator cam can go because planes are actually allowed to fly above that section. So I'd be able to follow a plane out of the map. This is the Ilya Muromets bomber.
The enemy has reached the final objective.
This is the last stand.
So he'd be able to go outside the troopers and infantry bounds of the map. Now we're up to my top 10. This is number 10, Zebruggerade. This was added with Turning Tides Part 2 because they split it in half when they released it. And this is what we were more expecting from Turning Tides. Actual naval warfare, docks and ports. And they called this side of Turning Tides North Sea for obvious reasons. Zebruggerade is this kind of gigantic
pier, I guess. I guess you call it a pier, maybe? Or a jetty, or dockyard. So the whole map is down this kind of string, down this line, except this is when they first added ships and things. You've got the new airship here, which is smaller than the Behemoth, and then you've got large ships you can spawn in to have naval warfare. So the whole map is used apart from this string, but the infantry can go down this string where there's flags all the way down the pier, and I think certain boats can capture certain flags, and you've obviously got planes as well. This actually extends all the way to a flag that's on the beach here, so you get to play on the coastline too. That's a very pretty looking map. It's not nighttime, I don't think, but it's dark. It's kind of like either a very dark day in daytime or like a dusk. Actually, I think you can see the moon, so it's sort of like dusk. Yeah, it's really fake. The moon's really fake, but it's kind of dusk. And it's a shame this isn't a packed server, because I could use the spectator cam to show you naval warfare. But no one seems to be spawning in ships at the moment. A bunch of them spawn over here, but you can also have destroyers and dreadnoughts too. At number 9 I've put the other Turning Tides North Sea map, Heligoland Bite. This is a proper typical Battlefield map. Once they released this, it was kind of amazing, because we first got like a glimpse of this awesome ship warfare on a really pretty map. The map isn't so good for infantry. You can only really fight, I guess the best areas for infantry are this bit of the main island with the trenches and the fortress gun, and then you can kind of swim, I guess. There's a ship that you can go on where there's a flag, and then there's another flag on this island. This is a very beautiful island. It's kind of sandy. It reminds me of beaches I've been to and things. It's really kind of, it's a very beautiful map, very well done artistically. But most of the action happens out at sea, to be honest, because again you can spawn in L-class destroyers and dreadnoughts and missile boats. There's one boat over there. Let's go see what he's doing. There's this area of the map that it's kind of out of bounds, I think, for infantry, but a plane can land on it and park, I found. It was a shame that the Battlefield team DICE couldn't implement actual working submarines, because we had those in Battlefield 1942, and I think people were missing them, and we'll be hoping that they come back, and I think they will put them in a future game, to be honest. I've put the newest map, Somme River, in my 8th place. It would be higher up, I think. There's some of that fake fire again, like they need to just put fire in all these apocalypse maps, it seems. It would be higher up on my list. If they did it right, I think they could have done it a lot better than they actually did it. This is very gimmicky. But the map, actually when you play it, is really fun. Even though it's not what it could be, it's still really good. So it's in my 8th place, obviously. You've got these kind of fields which are quite nice. I don't know if anyone was expecting these fields before they showed the map off first, but they look pretty cool. And most of the fighting, this is still the conquest area of the map that I'm showing you here, but if we go back to where that factory was and these trenches, this is where the deathmatch and smaller maps like War Pigeons, I think you can do War Pigeons, well, Domination definitely, begin. And these trenches are really fun to fight in, especially this trench network here. And this is part of the deathmatch as well, this kind of ruined factory here. So it's a messy looking map. It's a bit like St. Quentin Scar, I guess. I don't think planes aren't allowed on this map, but you do get tanks and things. It could be a lot better than it has been made, I think. But it's fun, especially around this area. At my 7th place, I've chosen Montegrappa, which is a very fun map based in the Alps campaign of World War I, which I always enjoy reading about. It's a really horrible war, and I think the map really gets the look right, but it doesn't get the kind of dynamic of fighting right, and it could be a lot steeper. It's on a mountain, but it could be a lot steeper, because a lot of the fighting in the World War I Alps campaign was on very vertical slopes in the snow. So on this map, they've definitely got the looks right. If you look at all the old video footage and things of when this was actually happening, it's brought to life that look, so it looks very authentic to me. But a lot of that fighting was on completely sheer drops. Like they could have had a map very similar to this that was based on things like this, where there'd be one squad up here that couldn't really see who they were chucking grenades onto, because they'd be kind of tucked away in the face here, trying to climb up sheer slopes and put ropes down and things. It's a kind of unbelievable kind of warfare. But this is the actual map you play on, Montegrappa, and it's mostly kind of green, steep-ish hills with stone trenches around Italy. The aircraft on this map get to do a lot. You get to do a lot of things with the aircraft, bombing targets and fighting between other planes. There are tanks on this map, and they get to do it a little bit, but they're quite easy to take out as well, I would think. First few times I played on this map I used the artillery truck, and that was great. There's lots of in-bunker fighting, which is quite nice. There's a particular bunker over here, this one, which gets the most attention from players. This is always packed with people on a full server trying to defend this bunker, because there's a flag directly above it, I believe. Yeah, normally spawns here. Lots of sniping, but lots of cover as well. For number 6 I've chosen Amiens. Amiens is that city map I was talking about. It's the main city map in BF1. It has lots of streets you can go down. The tanks are available on the map. The planes are not. There are planes going over, but they're like prefabs, I guess. They're skybox scenery, as is that gigantic cathedral, which I kind of wish... It looks kind of fake when you go up to it. It looks way too big to be something from real life. Look at that. That can't be something from real life. But yeah. You can't go to that, but you can go to an awful lot of things in the city, lots of different streets. Hardly any of it is off limits within the combat area, that is. Obviously they'd have to end the city somewhere, they can't just keep going everywhere with it. There are lots of inaccessible buildings here. And as I say, I don't like that. You can't go in there, for instance. You can't go in there, you can't go in any of those houses, you can't go in that house, you can't go in that house, you can go in this house, you can go in this house, can't go in that, can't go in that, can't go in that. So, I think it would be, in the sake of balance, they've not let you go everywhere, but why not let people go everywhere? I mean, you've got, like, flares that can spot people. You can spot people yourself if you see them with a cursor. It shows up on the minimap. If they were really worried about it, they could just provide more things like flares to all the players. Battlefield 2142 had a lot more devices you could use to search for players where you didn't know where they were. Why not include that in this game and just let people go everywhere? But it's a huge city map, and having said that, you can go a lot of places still. So this is one of the best maps. I think it's considered by players to be one of the best maps of BF1. You'll always find a server running it. It's very popular. At 5th place I've chosen the map Soissons, which was added with the French DLC, They Shall Not Pass, which was, in my opinion, one of the best DLCs, to be honest. It added so much. The later, I mean, Turning Tides North Sea added tons, but apart from that, not many of the other add-on packs added that much. This map is incredible. It looks frigging incredible. It doesn't look like a completely ravaged war zone. It looks like a place about to get screwed up by the war, but it looks completely beautiful as a map. You could put it in another game and it would look amazing. You could use it as an RPG location. I always think that about a beautiful map. You could just make it into a game where you could spend more time in it as a character. So the Conquest map is pretty huge. You've got a lovely kind of manor house here surrounded by waterways. You've got little villages here, there's a smallest there. You've got a big village here. This is actually the deathmatch and smaller map zone. So you get this lovely little town to play in. It extends all the way over here. I'm like flying the camera in a circle where the map's edges would be if it was a deathmatch map. So you get to go into this awesome town, and this is a spectacular deathmatch map to fight in. One of the best deathmatch maps to fight in, this one. I have many fun games here. And you've got these giant fields, so in front lines and Conquest you get these big open fields where your tanks will be driving. This is actually the lower one. If you go up to the high edge of the map, which is over here, the map gets higher. And in Conquest you will often see tanks rolling through these high areas, through the fields. This is a base over here. And this is where the tanks often set off towards the fort. There's a flag here. I think there's someone in this game. Yeah, there are a couple of players playing in this server right now. It's a tank hunter. Look how cool he looks. He looks like that, you know, in Star Wars A New Hope, there's the guy who tips off the stormtroopers as to where Han Solo is. He looks like that dude. You know, like a plague doctor or something. At number 4 I've chosen Volga River. This is a really nice map to play on and has a really nice blizzard weather condition, which we're not seeing right now. This is basically another Stalingrad map. Over the river is actually you can see like a version of what the map would be, but over the river is meant to be Tsaritsyn, so you can actually see how this ties in. But this is Volga River. It's a snowy kind of sunset map. Mostly flat, no giant hills. There are these chimney stacks that kind of characterize it, and this church in the center. And there's tons and tons of messy cover for snipers to hide behind, or any players, to be honest. On the Conquest version of this map, tanks cross over the map. You can get quite a lot of tanks, I think. I think you get 2 land ships on either side. You don't get to mess in this trench network very well. It's a nice kind of weakly outlined trench network here, but you don't get to use that a lot. This is a base spawn, I think, and the tanks cross over the map here. And over here This is where the infantry play quite a lot, and there's a nice trench network here that actually gets to see some attention from players. Over there on the larger map you get to see the railway, and you get to cross the railway if you want. There are horses on this map, and they don't get stuck on things so much, so it's good to play as a horse. You've got a crash train here as a artsy focus, and this is where the other side spawns. And there's a mini church area here that is often fought over in Conquest, and you'll find a lot of people on the beach here. The beach is quite a cool looking area as well, kind of frozen beach. I wish I could switch the weather conditions so you could see it in blizzard mode, because that looks spectacular. Everything's complete whiteout and shards of ice flying. So cool. Number 3, Verdun Heights. There is a map called Verdun in Battlefield 2142, and it's completely different layout. Now, we're currently seeing Verdun in one of its most dramatic weather conditions. And Verdun is a map that's on a hill, kind of, that's on fire, and we're seeing its kind of smoky forest fire weather condition. So it does look like hell during this stage. And it's quite nice to show you the weather condition. It does make it a little bit difficult to show you around, because you've got to get close to the ground. But let's see. One team spawns up here in this forest, which does get a cool cannon. It's kind of under wraps there, but I've only just got to use it recently. You get a cool cannon that came within They Shall Not Pass. This is the French DLC, so we got that quite early. And this is a really cool map, so I've given it 3rd place. There's towns to hide in, you can go in most of the buildings. There's kind of a mountain area where you cap flags. There's a church in the centre. There's a bunker underneath the church. There's hills to the side to another bunker. There's a valley that runs through with a stream. Then you climb up this, and this is where most of the action happens, and where the deathmatch area of the map starts, which is climbing the mountain, the charred mountain. These are bunkers too, you can go in those. There's little details in them. There's a gramophone there. Ooh, and I'm stuck because I'm a spectator who doesn't know how to move. And then you can climb this hill up towards the final enemy positions. There's lots of uphill trenches here. It's just a really good dynamic for players to hide and take cover and snipe and dodge, and tons of places for them to go, and the map just looks amazing. And they get one of these cannons as well. Of course, there's a lot of fire on this map, so you will find yourself walking over bits of ground and just setting yourself alight, as is life in Battlefield. And in my number 2 spot is Sinai Desert. What can I say? I like desert maps. This map, I love the Sahara-ness of this map. I don't know if it's technically in the Sahara. Probably not actually. Sinai, that's the peninsula, isn't it? Is it in the Arabian Peninsula? No, it's the peninsula before the Arabian one, the triangular one, isn't it? So I don't think it's technically in the Sahara, but it has that vibe, you know, because look at this. I mean, they could have put that in the map, couldn't they? Why couldn't they have put that in the map? I would have liked to see it. The map ends around here, I guess, for troopers. Can you actually go to this? Can you go to this? That would be cool. So this is the, like, most distant flag. I think it's G flag on a conquest game. Then you can go even though you can't go out to that desert, you can go in most of this desert, which is really awesome. And here we've got a lone motorcyclist, there he is. And it's really fun fighting motorcyclists against horse. What's going on here? There's actually something interesting happening here. He's angry. The guy nicked his favourite motorcycle, now he's left with the crappy one he doesn't like. I think that's what happened. Planes get to have fun on this map. There's this thing which can be destroyed. You can actually walk up this thing when it's not destroyed and fight in this very cool canyon. It's an amazing canyon. You can even get a horse up here, which is fun. And planes can fly through the canyon. This is quite high up. There we go. And there's this kind of antiquity temple area here, like on Achibaba. Got all this area here. There's lots of cover. This area is big on the operations mode. Then you can cross through the canyons. And this is the town. This is where the town starts, which is the deathmatch mode. You can't actually go here, but this is a very beautiful edge of map boundary. And this is the town. You can go in all the buildings, pretty much. And there's some great battling you can have here. There's a train depot here, and the actual Behemoth is a giant train. This server is filling up now. Some fun going on between friendlies. And there's a kind of stone outcropping around one flag out here, which is quite fun. And the enemy base is over there. And then of course you've got all this vast wilderness between here and the G flag, which is awesome. And there's a little tiny bunch of towns and kind of rocky outcroppings to snipe from over here. A water tower. And that leaves my favourite map. I'm sure many of you disagree, but leave your favourites in the comments. Which is Rupture, which came with the French They Shall Not Pass DLC, the first add-on pack for Battlefield 1. I like to call Rupture Poppy Fields, because obviously you've got that stereotypical poppy fields look of those areas of World War 1. So Rupture is dotted with all these poppy fields that gives it its characteristic look. It's got a lot of trench networks. There's a not so fun area here. I think on front lines or operations you kind of get bogged down at this place where they put the telegraph machine. You have lots of wrecked and rusting, reclaimed by nature Saint-Chamond tanks, and lots of trench networks leading up the hill here. It's a good horse map despite the trench networks. You get the Char 2C giant Behemoth tank. I think it's for, I'm not sure if it's for both sides. I think it's for both sides, yeah. Got these bunkers, and then right running through the map you've got this river leading to a bridge, and you've got these kind of river crossing plank setups which were common in World War 1. You actually see more of these in Passchendaele, but they haven't actually put that in the map Passchendaele. It's a beautiful map to look at, and it's a fun map to play. Got another flag here, this little village here. It's surrounded by fields. These things actually explode in a really dramatic way when explosives hit them. And then you've got another river crossing down here, a smaller bridge. People hide in these struts of the bridge quite often, or you could go over the top. Most of the fighting on the larger maps happens around here. These trench networks, there's normally a flag right here. And across here too, you've got a small town across the river, and then following the railway you've got a much larger town over here, not massively large to be honest, but you've got a train station. This is actually the death match area, I believe. Yep, this area of the map is actually the death match, so you've got this town, which is quite cool to play on. The deathmatch isn't actually as good as the front lines version of this. And then over here, this is the edge of the deathmatch map. You have this gigantic cannon. There's actually a player here. This cannon fires by itself from time to time. This is like, this looks a bit like the Paris gun. I'm not sure if it is actually. It's like the first weapon of mass destruction, I think, in World War I. Near the end of the war, they created something called the Paris gun, which could fire from Germany all the way to the outskirts of Paris, and it was one of the longest range cannons that you could get. And so the deathmatch version of this map is alright, but as a whole the map works a lot better, and you actually get planes and stuff as well. I quite like this section here. These two flags around here are probably the most fun section for me. Okay, so that's what I thought of the Battlefield maps. If you thought differently, I'm sure other people have different favourites from me. Tell me in the comments what you would pick as your favourite maps.